Drugs. Let's talk drugs for a second. So according to statistics, about 10% of Americans' population is addicted to alcohol or drugs. I don't understand why they make the distinction between alcohol and drugs. Alcohol is a drug, and it kills far more people than cocaine or heroin or methamphetamines, Molly, whatever. Yeah. So I believe all drugs should be legalized. I know that sounds a bit strange coming from someone who's in recovery, but as a matter of public policy, the war on drugs is probably the worst failure in American history. Prohibition didn't work. More people per capita drank during Prohibition than before or after Prohibition. So we doubled down on it with the war on drugs. Richard Nixon created the Drug Enforcement Agency in 1973, I believe, and heroin is now half the price it was 40 years ago, and I believe it is 6 times more potent. So how's that going? So just as a matter of public policy, the war on drugs is a failure. And just as Prohibition created the American Mafia, there would be no mafia without bootlegging. The war on drugs has created this onslaught, this mass slaughter, this pseudo-genocide that exists in the world of drug cartels. There would be no Sinaloa cartel, there'd be no Cali cartel, there would be no Medellin cartel, there'd be no Pablo Escobar, there'd be no El Chapo without the war on drugs. We created these people with our policies. You legalize drugs, all that goes away tomorrow. All the murders, all the beheadings, right? All the money laundering, all the smuggling, all that goes away tomorrow. Legalize it. And don't make drug crimes, don't make drug possession a matter of the criminal justice system. Make it a matter of mental health. All right, so you bust somebody with drugs on them, instead of throwing them in the pen, throw them into a rehab. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in recovery. I believed that 30 years ago. Plus, it works. Anyway, a lot of people who don't do drugs are baffled by those of us who do or who have. So I'll just give you a sense of why people do drugs. By the way, 10% of the population is nonsense. It's more than that. I guarantee you it's at least 15%, if not 20%. So that's, I think, a safe estimate, a conservative estimate would be 40 to 50 million people are addicted to mood-altering substances in this country. So somebody you know is on drugs. Somebody you don't know is on drugs is on drugs. You know them, but you don't know that they're hooked. And I promise you, you know someone like that. It's that guy or gal in the office or cubicle next to you. It's that person you hung out with the other day. Really? They're on drugs? Yes, they are. Why do we do drugs? Right? And ironically, the craziest people, well, I should say the craziest women I've ever known, were not drug users. In fact, they were ardently anti-drug. So there's not necessarily a correlation between sobriety and sanity. And anyway, so why do we do drugs? Okay, one, there's a genetic component to this, right? Some of us are predisposed to become addicted. And it runs rampant in my family, and just about everyone I know who's in recovery or is still addicted has people in their family who are drunks or junkies or whatever. Yeah. So you can inherit this shit. Now, no one makes you do the drugs, right? So this is not to blame people for what we do. I've never blamed anyone for my addiction. I did it. So personal responsibility is a big part of recovery, as it should be, because you work very hard to use drugs. There's probably not a harder job in the world than there is to be a drug addict. There's a lot of work that goes into that, man. Maintaining a habit is a bitch. So I'm talking money, time, relationships. It's expensive in any way you can imagine. So we do drugs, one, because there's a genetic component to it. Two, we want to feel better. And who doesn't want to feel better? Tell me one person who feels great all the time. One. Just name one. One person you know who always feels great. That they don't exist. So who doesn't want to feel better, right? So number 3, life can be really fucking boring. So boredom was a big trigger for me. I'm bored. Let me go get some cocaine. Right? Let me have a shot of vodka, which always led to me calling the coke dealer. Yeah, boredom's a big thing, and if you're not enjoying yourself, you're not enjoying your life. What's the point? So you can either kill yourself, which that's an activity I eschew because I'm a little bit too optimistic about life. I do believe tomorrow's better. I do believe next month it'll be better. I do believe there is, I don't want to say a rainbow, but there's a lightness out there that's appealing to me. There's a success, a distant success, a distant achievement, accomplishment. Yeah. So, number 3 is the forbidden nature of it. And do not underestimate this. A lot of people do drugs, and I certainly am chief among them, because it's illegal. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do illegal drugs. Fuck that. One of the reasons I loved it is because it was illegal, right? And this goes back to childhood, right? When we were 6 years old, we all touched that wall that had a sign saying wet paint, right? You touch it because you want to know if the paint is wet, right? You want to know if that wall is wet. You touch the stove, even though your parents tell you not to touch the stove, right? You, you experiment. You push, because that's what we do. So the idea that there were these covert operations going into bad neighborhoods and these secret handshakes and with the money in one hand, the drugs in the other hand, driving at odd hours, knowing the cops were around, going into bathrooms and bars and sneaking around, and it's a lifestyle. It's not just a drug; it's a lifestyle. It's very appealing. It's also addictive. And if you go into slinging drugs like I did, because after COVID I wasn't a sports writer anymore. After all these years, I had to earn a living because I needed my drugs. So, yeah, I loved it. So.